Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this roundtable today, hosted by Sprout Social. I am Rachel Goulet. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm Sprout Social's director of social. I've been in the social media marketing industry for over 15 years, a Sprout customer since 2011, and on Team Sprout since 2016. I'm so excited to dive into today's conversation about what the future of social might hold for brands. And in just a moment, I'm going to bring up some esteemed social marketers onto this virtual stage with me. But first, I just want to ground us in the content that got us here today. So today we're highlighting a new report packed with data surrounding the ever hot topic of productivity that will center not only today's conversation, but two others in the coming weeks as a part of a 3-episode series. So stay tuned for that. Our recently released 2024 data around social media productivity gets real and unpacks what separates the most effective social teams from the under-resourced and the struggling, and how you can prepare for the growing demands of social now and into the future. This report is available for free, Avi, and we'll be referencing data throughout today's conversation. So if you're like me and you love to pop up video or sing-alongs or karaoke, I highly encourage you to download your own copy at any point. We'll be dropping a link to the report in the comments and throughout this live stream. So with that, I'm so excited to welcome two high-powered and wicked smart social marketers to join me for today's conversation. We have Bautista, social video lead of Morning Brew, and Alyssa Noble-Sala, senior content solutions consultant for the global strategic accounts at LinkedIn. I got that right. Welcome, both of you. I'm so pumped for this conversation today. Please introduce yourselves. Alyssa, why don't we start with you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Alyssa Noble-Sala. As Rachel mentioned, I'm a senior content solutions consultant here at LinkedIn. It really just means that my team's role is centered around helping our clients and advertisers on the platform understand what great social creative looks like on LinkedIn to really empower their marketing strategy and help social kind of bolster the rest of their comms. That being said, I use she, her pronouns, and my background actually is from a brand marketing perspective. I worked for a long time in fashion brand marketing, and 2 years ago in January 2022, I made the move over to tech, and I'm here at LinkedIn kind of learning the best of B2B. So really B2C, B2B, I've kind of dabbled in it all and really excited to talk about the future of social and what that means today. Uber, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Uber. I'm the social video lead here at Morning Brew. Essentially, I help execute our short form video strategy. I help our creators create the excellent video content that we're publishing on our Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts. We primarily focus on business news and business media. So it was definitely a challenge for me when I got to Morning Brew, because I came from a sports social marketing, and like sports and business news are like very different. But I am loving what we're doing here at the Brew. And yeah, I use he, him pronouns.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for those lovely introductions. All right. To kick things off, I have a little question. So I think we can all agree that in order to create really good, exceptional social content, it means saying no to some things, which is very scary, but has to be done. And so to that end, I'd love us to answer the following question. So to make way for the future of social, today's topic, what's one thing you want to deprioritize and leave in the past when it comes to social marketing? I'll start. So I really think manual tasks are something that we can just let go. So anything that takes an insane amount of time. So like, one of the things I always encourage is to put concrete numbers behind the time that goes into like making a high impact strategy or making a video, and make a stronger case for more support for those manual tasks in 2024. So that's my thing, is like, let's stop doing the nitty gritty where we don't have to. Alyssa. What about you?
Yeah, I think one of the things in social, I think that tends to be a challenge for social marketers is all of the trends. There's always a hot new platform or a hot new content trend that people really want to take advantage of. And so I think we need to let go of the bandwagon trends and focus on what's right for our audience, what's right for our platform, what's right for our brand, and really focusing on creating quality content instead of chasing the latest and greatest. Experimentation and new things are great, but really making sure it ladders up to who we are as as companies, as brands, is going to pave the way for a really strong future, I think.
Oh, I love that. Uber.
Yeah, similar to you, Rachel, my big thing is eliminating meetings that aren't necessary for certain team members. I think
Ooh, I
in an
love
ideal
that.
world, it's not just one person doing all things social media and you have a team to build around. But I think there comes a time where like people are added to meetings where they aren't needed. And that takes away time from like creating content, which I think is probably the most essential thing about working in social media. So kind of eliminating unnecessary meetings is where I would land.
I am so in support of that. Here's what I'm always saying to my team, but it's always, hey, can you ask, does that person have an agenda for this meeting? Can we give a who, what, where, when, why? Can we make sure we're well briefed before we go into this? Because also, like, these meetings, there's a lot of time. There's a lot of time we're spending here. So yeah, meetings, manual tasks, jumping on trends that you don't need to be a part of. I love that. Let's leave them behind. Awesome. Okay, thanks for indulging me in that. And let's just dive in today's conversation by starting with a data point. I always start with the data. So the first data point from the 2024 Social Media Productivity Report that really took me by storm in my very meta role as a leader of an organic social team for a social media software company. It was just really heartening to see that 90% of all social marketers that we surveyed indicated that social media efforts significantly or somewhat contributed to revenue. That's something I've been wanting to see for a long time. A little less heartening was the 43% of those who made up that somewhat contribute to revenue. But when I think of the times where I might have answered like somewhat myself, I think about not having the space to focus on revenue because of all the tasks that are in front of me, like we've talked about, the meetings. And in order to make your social efforts soar, we definitely have to move away from always being in that reactive manual mode. But as we've all stated already, it's not really easy to do that. Let's talk about how prioritizing workflows like automation and personalization can help laser in on a more quality experience for your customers while also contributing to more space for making clearer impact on the business. So, Alyssa, how is LinkedIn prioritizing ways for marketers and customers in general to lean into this?
Yeah, so there are some really exciting LinkedIn features that are kind of new to the platform. I think, as with all tech companies these days, we're heavily focused on AI and thinking about how that can help augment our customers' experience on the platform. And so we have a new product called Accelerate, and it's an AI tool that really just helps marketers create advertising campaigns on LinkedIn with a few clicks. So you can take your website homepage URL or a product page URL, input it into this tool, and AI will scrub the page for relevant information, copy, imagery, and it will kind of create a marketing campaign for you. So sponsored content, copy, variations. So you're really having a strong starting point with just a few clicks. So that, obviously the idea is there's still a need for nuance and editing and review, to really make sure that it's the most impactful. But having that really automated and set from the get-go is such a huge time saver for our clients. And so I think a really good opportunity for marketers to take advantage to create more space for creative and content and, all the things that we love to do as social marketers. I think the other thing that LinkedIn really has a unique point of view on is we sit at this intersection of work and life, right? So I think previously there was a conception of, LinkedIn being a jobs site or kind of just a work site. But as, we're coming out of the pandemic and life has really changed over the past few years, LinkedIn is really becoming a place where people are looking to the platform for thought leadership, for marketplace interactions, to learn and to grow. And so providing our customers with some of that data, we have, the future of work reports and a lot of things that our team at LinkedIn is able to share with our members to really help understand where the economy is going, where our member base is going, to help make those informed decisions as social marketers as we create our campaigns.
I am such a big fan of all of those resources that you mentioned. So I am really excited. LinkedIn has really become like my preferred social network post-pandemic. So I'm really excited that you brought those to the surface. Uber, what about you?
Yeah, on our end, I think it's more of like organizational wise, like the way we structure our teams, I think has really helped us find our groove. Right now we're currently split between like editorial social, which is the people that handle like Twitter, like static Instagram posts, and then we have like the video side of it. And I think splitting people and having them focus on either a specific platform or a specific type of social media really helps them like hone in their kind of specialty within social media. And I think that just allows for them to become, for lack of a better word, like an expert on their platform. Specifically like talking it into like social video, right? We have content creators who like their sole job is to make video content for our social media platforms, right? And so my job is to make sure that they one have all the tools that they need to do that, but also have all the time. And then to take it a step further, their job is also to engage with our community, right? So like for the first 30 minutes to like an hour of when a video goes live, they're in the comments either responding as like the Morning Brew account or on their personal profiles to the comments that we get from our audience. And it just helps build a genuine connection beyond being just a media company or a business news company. And then now we have faces that are tied in, or like content faces and content creators that are like tied into the Morning Brew brand. So like even outside of Morning Brew, like our creators are like walking on the street like, hey, you make videos for Morning Brew. And I don't know, I think it's a great example of like social team structure done right.
Yeah, talk about a dream team. And I love like having like the creators like in the mix of the comments and having their real personalities shine through and be a part of the whole experience. That's like what customers gravitate towards. And yeah, I think like, so when I think about, automation and I think about productivity, I think a lot about using things like listening or using looking for certain keywords that you then might like automate. Like auto tagging has been a dream for our team. So you might automate like how you organize that information or the insights that you're getting. And really when you utilize anything like AI, automation, personalization, like those added layers of social media marketing to enhance those messages, it actually allows you that space to scale and go, okay, now we can do this and serve a larger audience or more niches, like to your point, Uber, with different videos. So that's really exciting to me. If you are just joining in, we are talking about all things social media productivity reports. So you can download that at the link on the screen or in the comments. I want to move into this idea of integrating emerging technologies. So from what we found, we know that when social teams are equipped with the right solutions, they can bring more value to not only their marketing organizations, but their entire company. In fact, 55% of social marketers say that their brand's social efforts contribute to revenue with the right social media management tools in place. I know that we work with our sales and success teams internally, our talent teams, our services and product all the time as a social team. And we're sharing insights with them around what we're doing, around what our customers are doing, and really trying to amplify that voice of our customers. So let's talk about the tools that we think together are going to be the most transformative for social marketing strategies to extend that impact. Uber, why don't we start with you this time?
Yeah, for sure. I'll speak specifically to the video side since that's what I work on every day. I think a lot of like the media coverage surrounding AI has been like AI is coming for your job, AI is taking over. But I think the truth of it, on some levels, is that it'll it's more of an assistance and not a replacement, right? I think that embracing AI will help us kind of get rid of like the minuscule tasks, and just make them obsolete.
Mhm.
And as a result, just free up a lot of our time to focus on the important things. Which again, I will reiterate, for us is making content, right? I think that's the key part. So like any tool that can help us get to that point where we have more time to devote towards that, um, it's an added bonus, right? For example, like on our end, we use this tool called Rev. It's a transcription service company that really helps us out in like the outlining and scripting phase of our video projects, right? There have been times where we've done interviews with people that have lasted 2 hours, 3 hours long. Without a service like Reb, I would have to like manually watch 3 hours of footage,
Ugh, yeah.
where like maybe 10 minutes of it is stuff that we'll actually use, right?
Mhm.
And so using a tool like Reb, I can send that over to them. They'll have like their AI transcription service, have it transcribed within like 15 minutes, right? So there's no delay either. Um, and then get it delivered within 15 minutes, and then I am skimming through it and then highlighting the most important parts. Whereas before, like I would have to like watch a 3 hour video, and it would have just delayed. It would have been a snowball effect and just delayed even more things that need to get done. Even for captioning our final videos, right? Like our first ever social video producer tells us about a time where there was no AI captioning, and he would have to manually type out every single word he said. And mind, we're doing like these are still like fairly short videos, but it's still time consuming. Like that process could add another hour where like he could have had that video done and have been working on the video
Mm,
for like the next day, right? um and I know it seems like a simple thing that's probably been around for a while, but I'm using that as an example.
sure.
Those tools that eliminate minuscule tasks for social marketers are probably the most transformative ones. um I guess I'll reference like even like social media managers who like at a certain point had to pull manual data from like social platforms in order to like build up social reports, right? Like there are tools for that now, where you can now save time from having to like dig through data, which I am really not a fan of. And then I'll also add this as like a caveat, because I know there's a lot of companies promoting like AI video editing tools that like promote like viral clips. Like you give us like your hour-long podcast and we'll cut this up into like 30-second clips that will like go viral. That's not what I'm referencing to. Like I think the creative process should always remain intact. But like
Sure.
again, just any minuscule task that we can eliminate in the process is will be key, to helping marketers be successful.
I couldn't agree more. I'm also to jump in on a plus one on Rev. They are a tool that we use to make sure all of our videos are accessible and inclusive. And so, just yeah, captioning so important. Um, and yeah, I mean, definitely love your call out of data. Couldn't pass over that. I think powerful data is important, but also like making sure that's easy to use. So you need to have tools that are simple enough to use, that you can get others bought in, but powerful enough to actually give you the information that you need. I know that like even for us internally, like getting shopping social data around it has to be validated, and so having things like our Salesforce integration or our Zendesk integration really makes it easy to bring stuff that our sales team can understand, that our support teams can understand and navigate all in one spot. And then yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't say I think amplification tools are actually going to be a really big piece of the future. So, employee advocacy is one example. Any tool that can sort of help you maximize reach for your content, AI assist in employee advocacy, like all that, all those copywriters out there who can empathize with having to write multiple post for like 6 different networks, and I'm not great at math, but I know that gets exponentially more difficult. So having AI help with that can be really helpful. And yeah, just being able to, like you said, Uber, quickly look at high performing posts, ID where you need to pour gas on the fire to, scale that already high performing content. Any tool that can tell you how to boost, how to get it out to more audiences, that is always going to be important and like needed for a social media marketing team. Alyssa, let's get your thoughts here and what you think is going to be the most transformative tech, automation, anything like that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, +1 to everything that was been said. I think the idea of making our lives easier and automating the tasks that take up a lot of time is huge. So in my world, Microsoft Copilot and products like Gong, who have AI capabilities to help, for strategy calls or for client calls, to help record and pair through all of that to get key takeaways, to get action items. It really then helps us as social marketers be able to action on things a lot quicker. So, really hugely helpful for making the time and space for creativity and brain power, which I think is really what all of these minute tasks end up taking away from. So +1 to all of that. I think, again, going back to the data conversation, I think tools that can help us scrub through performance, scrub through, what's working on LinkedIn. We have a ton of first-party data. We have an amazing insights team at LinkedIn that really helps our customers understand what content is working for them, and also just like understand the audience, understand our members and what they're going to find most valuable. So really thinking about, in both B2B and B2C, how can we efficiently use the data we have at hand, first party or third party, to help inform the strategy so that, the road is set and the path is very clear from the beginning. Because I think that obviously makes everyone's life super easy at the end of the day, once you have clear marching orders and a great strategy, allows the space for that creativity and the brainstorming and really the magic of social marketing to happen.
Yes. And I can speak on behalf of like all social media managers, if I will, all of us. When I say like, we are grateful to networks for being transparent with that and like letting us know who we're speaking to. It's immensely helpful for creating content. So before we dive into this next section, I want to share how our audience recently responded when we asked them the question, what excites you most about the future of your career in social media? And so based on the responses here, you can see it is clear that respondents are hopeful for new career growth opportunities and even more generally, the future of social teams. I can't actually say what this means to me in full words, but being at the helm of what we share at Sprout has its own peculiar special place for me. And I've come up in social the same time as so many of you, and we're paving this path together. And like we've had our ups and downs, let's be real, a lot of downs, a lot of ups too. So to see that we're really hopeful as a collective gives me a lot of warm fuzzies. I'm a Capricorn sun, Cancer moon, and rising. So now that I've emotioned it up, I know, let's get into the data. There's always a lot around predictions and what's next in social, but let's drill into 2 specific areas: content creation and distribution. How these aspects of social are really shifting and changing in the coming years. Alyssa, let's start with you. How do you think AI, machine learning, those types of things will continue to change content creation and distro processes for marketers?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think going back to that like first party data and what we've seen on LinkedIn, and when we look at the conversations around AI that are happening on the platform, the creative conversation on LinkedIn right now is really focused mainly on experimentation, staying in the know, sharing tips and successes. Rachel, you alluded to it, like social marketers are all learning together. These new tools are coming out faster than we can kind of absorb them. So thinking about, coming to LinkedIn as a place to learn, I think it's been a really important key trend we've seen. And so so a lot of advice we give to clients who want to talk about AI, who want to talk about these tools and products that they have is, how can you share helpful information, add value to the conversation that's already, happening on LinkedIn. And so, personally, I'm finding that Gen AI can be a great tool for just getting started and providing a jumping off point for things like copy, imagery, and thought starters. So, we've discussed it already, but again, being able to just have a point to begin with, where you're not staring at a blank page and you kind of have some thought starters, really helps get those creative juices flowing and really allows us to continue doing what we do best as social marketers. And, I think at LinkedIn, we really view the evolving creative process as human-led, but AI-powered. So really your output is only as good as your training and your prompt. So education around these tools, education around how to properly use AI to impact your social content and strategy, I think is really going to be a thing that is critical. So for example, like within a campaign and, the planning process of it, in the research phase, AI can really help, with audience insight gathering, competitive analysis, topic and like trend identification. But the output will really only be as strong as the marketer using AI and understanding how to phrase the prompt and understanding, what output they really need to understand how, it can be the most impactful. And the same can be said, at different stages. So from strategy to content creation, distribution optimization, there's all these ways that AI can really help, but we as social marketers need to educate ourselves on what those best practices are and how we can really hone it and train AI to do what we need it to do.
I couldn't agree more. I remember a year ago when AI for like ChatGPT just kind of like started booming, and we were talking about this in another piece of content of ours, and we were really focusing on how that is the next skill to build, is how to work with AI. It's not how to like fight against it, and it just completely solidifies that. When I think about AI and automation, I really think about our team really trying to grow out our creator and influencer program. And I think about how other teams are trying to work with creators and influencers as, content creation pipeline and a distribution mechanism, and other unexpected, internal, external partners that social marketers could consider when it comes to content creation for their social channels. And I think about how AI can either be edified by what creators you input, who you want to emulate, or how you work with them, and or just like showing AI the type of content that you are already producing with creators, or giving creators the keys to AI to get their creativity started. So recently we partnered with Jade Powell, and we sent her out to an AdWeek conference. It was this awesome, really authentic, which I know we've mentioned authentic a few times out here, way, but for us to create this content stream from the event with presence, and we really focused solely on what our audience wants from the event and gave them a window and a seat to it. And so I just think like automating, creating more pipeline for content like that, giving people the keys to access like that, and having tools like that is really going to be another place that things shine here in terms of that distro and content process. Uber, I kind of want to shift the question for you to consider, just because of your video expertise. What future evolution do you see on the horizon when it comes to how content is distributed or consumed on each of the social platforms?
Yeah, for sure. Again, I'm going to talk mainly from like a video creator POV, but I think we're getting to a point, or we're already at a point where content is distributed and consumed like TV, right? I think the best brands, the best media companies all revolve around in-house creators. I know there's always been a debate about having front-facing social media marketers represent a brand because of what happens when they leave, and does the brand die out, or does the brand leave with them? But I think if you've built out a strong enough brand strategy, it can live out past specific content creators. There's always like transitional periods that you need to account for, and it's not always going to be one-to-one. But I do think that, having front-facing creators, in-house content creators, is the way that people want to consume social media. And I'll use Morning Brew for as an example, right? Like we started off with one like social video creator who's been here for a few years now. We're now up to like a team of 3 content creators making video content full time. And then
Congrats.
thank you. It's been a road to get here, but I think we're on a good path. And so like I'll use our first creator as an example, Dan Toomey, who for the longest time was the only person making social video content for Morning Brew. It's who our audience came to associate Morning Brew with, right? Like Dan Toomey is Morning Brew. And then, it got to a point where he built up his own following, and we kind of transitioned him out into making his own franchise, still underneath the Morning Brew umbrella. But when that happened and we started bringing on new creators to kind of replace the social content output, we did get those of like, where's Dan Toomey? Did Dan Toomey leave Morning Brew? But I think we did a good enough job to kind of lay the framework or like the groundwork to have other people that are, equally, if not more funny than Dan, or like make content that is within the similar realm. And, as we started to integrate them more into our content, the comments of like, where's Dan, started to get less and less frequent. And now our new creators, own that Morning Brew voice, and are now like, if there was a point where they left, we would now get those comments of like, where's Macy, where's Evan? But I think, a social brand or social media company that has that established framework can always get through those transitional periods. And on that note as well, talking about how like social media is like TV. If you think about it, branded content that content creators are inserting into their feeds are basically like commercial breaks, just for social media content. So I really do think that social video content at least is going to be consumed, or is already being consumed as TV once was.
Yeah. Brands are essentially media houses now.
Yeah.
And yeah, how do you stay productive, social team and a media house all at the same time? Like you need to set yourself up for that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I mean, even think about like how we as consumers, like, or I was just listening to you talk, and I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I just sit on my phone and I'll watch a ton, like an hour will go by that I could have been watching a television show, but instead I've been watching a ton of great content on social. So I do think it's such an interesting point about how social has evolved and like the future of where we're going in terms of actual consumer consumption.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, Rachel, I didn't mean to jump in. I was just like, that's actually
no. I'm like, oh, let's talk about this forever. So sad, honestly, because we are coming to the close of the end of our time together. But I want to toss it to us for a rapid round, and get a little playful here at the end, where we can provide maybe just one thing you think would set any social team up for success in the second half of this year, or a bold prediction you have about the future of social media marketing. I know it's not an easy task, but let's just lean into our boldness and expertise and kind of the hot takes of this convo already. Uber, let's start with you since you've gotten us inspired and going here.
You know what? I'll do both because one of my answers is something I've already touched on. So it kind of feels like I'm cheating, but it's just a really point that I would definitely like to get across is, making sure that your team has the time to do what's most important is key, which is making content. I think if you I'll take our team for example, right? I lead a team of content creators. I serve as like their first line of defense within like their time management, right? So I am looking at like working with them and like, hey, like you really don't have to be at this meeting. I will represent you in this meeting. I will let you know what the talking points are, what you need to know. But like use this time to like focus on making another killer video, right? And so I think a leader of any social team should serve as that line of defense for their social team's calendar. on the bold prediction side, my bold prediction is that Instagram will come full circle as a platform and start pushing people towards making long form content. So when I first started in social media, I was on an Instagram team focused on making IGTV content, which for those of you that weren't around during that time, it's essentially like 3-minute videos or like YouTube videos that IGTV that you would push onto IGTV, and yeah, they were really big on long form content. And then for whatever reason, it got sunsetted, and then Instagram Reels became like their main driver. But now we're looking at like TikTok extending posting times, right? Like it used to be limited to 1 minute, 3 minutes, 10 minutes. Now some people are like beta testing for like 15 minutes plus. And then we see the news about Twitter, or now known as X, today, talking about how they're launching a TV app. And Instagram doesn't like feeling left out. So I am betting on the comeback of IGTV, which I was a fan of. So I'm hoping this prediction does come true.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I
Alyssa, what about you?
love that. I mean, I don't know if this is a hot take or kind of, anything new, and it's definitely something I've already touched on today, but I do think like my big prediction is that AI is not going anywhere. And I think Uber talked about it a little bit earlier, that there's this conception of like, it's coming for our jobs. And I think if actually we take the approach of, how can I make AI work for me, and use it to my advantage, I think the strength of a social marketer will lie in their ability to write a strong prompt. And so a strong prompt on ChatGPT or whatever AI platform you're using will kind of separate the success from the struggle. And so I think, practicing those different prompts, personas, whatever the outputs are, so that you can like fine tune your approach, can really help social marketers use AI as a collaboration tool that drives efficiency. And so, again, I think the kind of bold prediction is remembering that the approach should be human-led, but AI-powered, and kind of taking AI, into your own hands and making it work for you.
I was going to say something about AI too, and not falling behind with automation or maybe amplification. I was thinking about too that incorporate AI. But because we've chatted so much about AI being a helpful co-pilot to maximize our time today, I wonder if we could all share some of the prompts, like you just mentioned, Alyssa, that are saving us some time currently, and hopefully you can tuck these prompts away and add them to your productivity in the coming days. Uber, do you have any tips, prompts that you're really into right now around AI?
Well, in the vein of working smarter and not harder, I suggest taking advantage of the tools that you already have at your disposal, that are starting to integrate AI and automation to level up your work. I mentioned Rev earlier, but there are so many other tools like Adobe, Canva, or Sprout that can speed up workflows, and just kind of take advantage of these features.
Love that one. Alyssa, do you have any fun tips?
I do. So, my team really uses this kind of acronym PROP to think about a streamlined approach to writing a prompt. So, understanding the persona that you want AI to encompass, having a clear request and outcome in mind that will meet, your goals for your campaign or strategy or whatever you're putting together, and then defining the creative parameters to ensure like a nuanced and relevant output. Again, I think, making sure that you can test out different ways of making this work for you, but PROP is kind of the acronym we've been using internally on my team to kind of help us. And this is, on screen, you'll see a little example of like what that could potentially look like and how you can play around with it.
Oh, that's so fun. As a fellow actress in my former youth, I'll remember prop. That's helpful. My one tip is from Faggy Glider on LinkedIn. And two things that stood out for me from these tips that they share. One is when you're asking for edits from AI, to start with a compliment. I thought that was so funny, but it actually helps AI do a better job. And I think there's research to it. Obviously, if you're telling it, here's what's working well, it's like giving really good feedback when you're specific. It helps the AI get more specific. And the second is ask it to suggest edits that bring you closer to your goal. So can you do this to drive more specifically sales of a certain product? That's just that extra 10% that sometimes you need to ensure that your creative idea is actually like effective or going to take it to the next level. Oh my gosh, this was so much fun. And I am really excited to test out all these prompts as soon as possible. Oh, I forgot my bold prediction. And my advice for social teams of the future is to just create dedicated space for analysis, for creativity, for focusing on team structure, for giving insights to your research and development team. Just like make space for it. We are already out of time. Thank you, Uber. Thank you, Alyssa. And just thank you all for taking the time to chat today. This was so much fun and so wonderful. Thank you to everyone watching. Hopefully this sparked a new idea or perspective for you about how to make the most of our time and future-proof our careers. Don't forget to download your free copy of the Sprout 2024 Social Media Productivity Report. And in the meantime, feel free to drop any questions in the comments and sprout along with some of our speakers. We'll do our best to just get to as many as we can in the coming days. I hope you have a great and wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you on the next roundtable. See you.